In this video, we're going to talk about how to set up your grade book at the beginning of the semester so that your grading policies match what is stated in your course syllabus. So we're not going to cover everything about the grade book, but we're going to talk about those essential things to do at the beginning of the semester. So to do this, let's go into a class. So my English 3 American Lit class. And the two links that I'm going to concern myself are going to be the grades, which is your grade book, and assignments, which is where you create categories, weighted or not. So let's start with the grades. I'll click on grades, and then I'm going to move my cursor over to this little sprocket icon. I'm going to click on that, and these are my gradebook policies. Now the first one is for so that Canvas will automatically apply a grade for missing submissions. This only applies to work that is submitted digitally, whether it be a Google Doc, a video, a photo, a slideshow, whatever. Something that's digitally submitted through Canvas. It doesn't cover handed in assignments on paper or presentations before the class. Those you'll have to manually enter in those grades for missing submissions. But if it's digitally submitted and a student misses a due date, you can assign Canvas to automatically apply a grade for the missing submissions. Now by default, I think it says 100%, which would mean that they would get 100% for having a missing assignment. So you're obviously going to want to change this. If you use traditional grading, you'll probably type in a 0 so that they automatically get a 0 for missing work. If you use a grade floor, you'll want to type in the number of your grade floor right there. Then the second section here, automatically apply deduction to late submissions. So this is how Canvas will deduct a certain percentage every day that something is late, or even every hour, although I think that's mainly for online courses. So you type in, first you got to click here, and then you can type in how much do you want to deduct. Perhaps it's 1% per day, and that includes Saturday and Sunday. There is an hour feature, but again, I think that is for online courses. So 1% for every day. You can even go with a smaller percentage, a half point or a quarter point. And then the lowest possible grade would be your grade floor. Again, if you're using traditional grading, that might be 0%. If you have a grade floor of 50%, then you would type in 50%. And then we're going to hit Apply Settings. So we've set some of the policies in our grade book. Now you may have noticed, I'll go back to this, you may have noticed that there are two other tabs. And these are really more teacher preferences. Grade posting policy. Do you want grades to post automatically? That means as soon as you enter a grade, a student can see it. Or do you want to delay that by manually posting the grades when you're ready? So that's an option here. And then there's some view options, and you can kind of sort through this, but this is just helps you to more customize your grade book. But this is just something that you see, not something that your students see. But anyway, we've already applied the settings, and so we don't need to, we'll just click out of that. Now the next thing I want to do is set up categories. Now in the grade book, the left side navigation, it collapses, and that's to give you more left-right real estate so that you can see your gradebook on the larger screen, which means to go back to the left side navigation, you need to click on these three lines, sometimes called the hamburger, and then you get your navigation, and we're going to go to assignments. So I click on assignments. By default, there's one category, and it's called assignments. And you cannot delete this category until you've created other categories, or you could just rename it if you want. And so that's the option I'm going to do right now. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call this written communication. There's a few other features here. You can instruct Canvas to ignore a certain number of the lowest scores and a certain number of the highest scores. Just make sure you state that policy in your course syllabus. And then you could even fine-tune it where there are certain assignments that never get dropped. And so when you click on that, you have a drop-down menu, and you can click on that. But that's not something we need to do necessarily at the beginning of the semester, unless it's part of your course syllabus. But I just created a category called written communication. Now, I keep saying categories. In Canvas, they're called groups, but effectively that's what they are. I'm going to create some more groups, because right now I just have one group or category. So let me click on group, and let's call this collaboration. My browser remembers things that I've typed already. That's why I don't have to type the whole word. So now I've got a second category. I'm going to add another group. Let's call this knowledge and thinking. And I'm going to add another category. I'll call this one agency. All right. All right, so I have 4 categories or groups, and these are unweighted. They're pretty useful, though. That way you can see, for example, you can track a student's progress in this one category or group called written communication. So in the grade book, you'll be able to see, well, how are they doing in this particular category, and so forth for these other groups or categories. But if you want to do a weighted grade book, then you just go over into the right-hand side here. We got these 3 dots. This is your, click on that, and then you can click on assignment groups weight and select this, and now you get to assign each of these categories a weight. I'm going to assign this one 35%, let's see, 15%, and then 25%. I'm just plugging in some numbers kind of randomly here, but you will see that they total 100%, and that's important. You don't really want to go over and you don't want to go under, so you want to aim for this 100%. Now, you can have a category that has a 0% weight, and so what are you doing when you do that? What you're creating is an ungraded category. So if you have some work that you want to provide feedback on, but you don't want it to apply to the grade book, then you just add that work to an ungraded category, and a 0% weight gives you that ungraded category. But most teachers are probably just going to have graded categories. So let me put in 25s all the way through, so I have 100%, and then I'll go save. Now you can see that each one of these categories, you can see the weight of each of these categories, and you can see a rule, and the rule is what assignments you never want dropped from the calculation. And that's why you see it here, but not here, because I have not applied rules there. So those are the 2 most basic, or the 2 basic areas that we need to approach, would be our grades and just setting up our late work policy, and then also in our assignments, setting up our categories. Now, if you're not going to weight your categories, you can add categories throughout the school year, and you can edit and rearrange them all you want. But if your categories are weighted and it's reflected in your course syllabus, then you probably want to do that at the beginning of the semester. Now, there's one extra thing that you might want to do, but most teachers won't need to do it, and that's going to take us to our settings down here on the left side navigation all the way to the bottom. So I'll click on that, and that is enable a course grading scheme. And all right, so for most teachers, the default setting, which is a grade scale of 0 to 100%, the traditional grade scale, the one that you saw in School Loop, the one that many teachers use on Canvas, that's probably the scheme that you're going to use. Even if you're using Grading for Equity practices, you can have a grade floor and you're just using the same grading scheme. But you can create your own grading schemes, and you can also create grading schemes for different types of work. So you can have a setting for the entire course. This is my grading scheme. But then you can have some alternate grade schemes that you can use for different types of assignments. Maybe you have a pass-fail assignment, or you have different ways of assessing different work. Again, this is not something that most teachers will need to do at the beginning of the semester unless you're going to adopt a grade scheme that is, unless you have in your course syllabus, you have a grade scheme that you need to have match here in Canvas. I'll create a separate video for this, though. Okay, so that's the basic setup, and there's many other things obviously to learn about the Canvas gradebook and so forth, and there's been a lot of trainings on this, and there'll continue to be some input that teachers will have on this. So we'll close it out there.